I punched him once, and he hit his head flat on the ground, face first. And I thought I killed him. And then the next morning they told me that he was in a coma, and he also had a brain hemorrhage. So this was my second GBH, my second brain hemorrhage on my file. So of course I was sent straight to prison.
Do you ever think about that with guilt or feelings of remorse?
I really want to get to the point in my life now where I can say yes to that, but I also don't want to lie. I want to try and I'm going to try and really think about it, because usually when you ask me that, like I get asked that question, my default was no, because I just think and I just tell my story and I'm not going there. But I've done a lot of work on myself in Bali recently, and I'm really trying to. So I'm going to really see if I can get there. No, I don't. No, it's still not there. I don't even know what that feels like. I really don't feel any emotion at all. I don't feel any happiness or joy or fulfillment. The only things I really get are stimulation, more sensation based stimulatory things that give you adrenaline. So that's why I used to use drugs, because it makes you, you feel something. So I used to like to have lots of sex when I was younger, because, well, I still do, but at the time, because, you can feel that. That's why I like to work and become successful, because I can feel the level of power and stimulation, and my mind is being, stimulated. So those are the things that I can feel, and I can associate certain emotions to more brain levels of understanding. So, for example, for me, love doesn't feel like love. I don't have this warm, fuzzy connection that people explain, and I have an understanding of being significant to somebody, and they have to show me that. I can't feel it. So yeah, on a day to day, I feel near enough nothing. I'm almost flat most of the time, which is why I have to ensure that I'm doing a lot with my life to make it, feel significant enough. Otherwise, I would probably slip into feeling probably even, I don't know. I don't even get depression or sadness either. Really, it's just a flatness, which can be quite uncomfortable, because I want to feel, I want to love, I want to be loved. Like, I've craved that my whole life, and I've kind of battled whether or not I'm able to feel and receive and give. I'd love to be able to experience a full range of emotion. I'm even happy to experience the pain and the darkness, the fear, although I don't like a lot of those, because I see them as huge restraints that have been massively beneficial for me to not have, because the huge advantage of this emotional shutdown is I don't really fear. I don't worry about risks. I don't really care about other people's opinions. I don't have any self-doubt or lack of confidence, or these emotional burdens that paralyze people from doing the things they want to do. They're not completely gone. They're not zero. If there's a flicker, there's an almost like there must be something there. I know I love that person. I just can't feel it. Or if something severe happens, like it sounds quite morbid, but if there's a death or something, I'd feel that. So I know that I've had feelings, and they're there. Day to day, they're not. I don't get influenced by other people's. It's very shallow. I would say it depends on sort of where I'm at in life, but it could be about 5% of what I think a normal person's is. Criminal damage was my thing. Like, I love criminal damage. I love to smash things. I love to smash windows. I smashed one window that would cost £850, and one window that was £650, huge windows. But then I used to just get a throw out of the smash. So I would steal the bus stop, the bus hammer that was the back of the bus for emergencies, and I would just have this little bus hammer with a diamond tip, and I would just go around smashing every window I could find. And I don't know if that was a cry for attention, or just like an impulse, recklessness, or some sort of thrill or stimulation or desire to feel, or adrenaline. But whatever it was, I got a lot of criminal damage convictions racked up. And by 14, I had an ASBO. So I had an antisocial behavior order, which is obviously directly linked to antisocial. And I was banned from certain areas and couldn't be around a certain amount of people. They kind of given up a bit at this point. They decided to ring fence me from the family because I was getting my brother into trouble. At the time, he was quite similar because I think he kind of looked up to me because he's 5 years younger. So he looked up to me as his cool older brother, I should imagine, at the time. And I was getting into trouble because I started selling drugs, and then I started getting him selling drugs with me, for me. And then I think that my drug deterioration became less of a cool older brother and more of a druggy older brother. And I think he kind of rightly took a different path, and he is very different to me. So he's definitely not like me. He's like the opposite of me, actually. They literally wrote me a letter and they said, you're affecting the family, and you're also affecting our marriage and your brother. So you're now cut off from the family, and you're not going to have dinner anymore. And you just come up and go to your room, and then that's it now. A year later, I found, I always say found, and I don't know why I use that word. It's such a psychopath word to use, but I found a girlfriend. Just found this girlfriend. Now, I met a girlfriend, and she was like my first love. And it kind of confirmed maybe I'm not this bad and unlovable kid, because this is kind of the beliefs that I had. I was bad and unlovable. Why didn't my dad love me? If he didn't love me, then maybe no one does. Also, I couldn't feel that love. Maybe it was being given to me by my mum, but I just didn't feel it. So to me, I just wasn't being loved. I didn't understand maybe that I couldn't receive it at that point. And then I found, I got this girlfriend. No, it's not the right word. I met a lovely woman who ended up being my girlfriend. And we was in a relationship for a year, and I ended up spending quite a lot of time around her family's house. And they actually were a family unit where they'd sit down in front of the television, and they would laugh and joke and banter with each other, and they cooked me dinner, and they had a big family. They had like 3 sisters and a brother, and I just thought, wow, this is what a family's like. And I started to think, maybe I am not bad and unlovable, and it really did fill that void that I'd been looking to fill that my whole life. I felt loved almost. No, that's actually not almost. I think I would say I felt loved at that point. And then my alcohol addiction was getting worse at this point, though. So I was taking a bit of weed and drinking a bit before that. But my mum and dad my dad was an alcoholic. My mum drank a lot, probably alcoholic at times. But my dad was the main alcoholic. But alcohol was just very frequent in my family. So I drank from quite a young age, from like 16. But at 17, I was starting to get drunk and drinking like whiskey. And one particular night, I drank a load of whiskey and had an argument with my girlfriend. And she very, very bitterly wanted to hurt me. So she said, well, you know what? I cheated on you. The moment she told me that, I just felt loss and rejection and confirmation. And I kind of, you hear when people die and everything flashes before their eyes. That happened to me, but it was all my traumas all into one. And I'd felt my family rejecting me and ring fencing me and cutting me off. I didn't feel it at the time, but I felt it then. And I felt all this confirmation of, wow, Lewis, this is the information that you now need to listen to, that you are actually bad and unlovable. And I completely saw red. I went on a frenzy, didn't know what I was doing, started smashing a kitchen up in rage, fits of crying rage, sort of didn't know what I was doing, and pulled out a kitchen drawer. And as I ripped it out of the socket of the drawer, it fell to the floor, and a 6-inch kitchen knife and it fell to the floor. And before I even knew it, I picked it up and just went, and then didn't even realize what I'd done. And then walked downstairs, and my girlfriend's friend was there at the time. She's like, Lewis, what have you done? And my neck was actually splurting with blood because I'd slit my throat. And you might not be able to see it now because it's 17, 18 years ago, but there's and I've got tattoos and stuff, but there are 2 scars there. And I'd slit my throat because it was that painful. I don't know if I wanted to kill myself. I don't know if it was impulse. I don't know if I was just seeing red. I don't know if I'd gone psychotic. I don't know if I was even trying to hurt her in a way by sort of saying, well, let me show you what I can, punish you for doing that by, putting this on your shoulders. I have no idea why I did that. But I went, a bit insane to the point where they had to, the paramedics arrived and I started fighting the paramedics. And then eventually they pinned me down, stitched me up, put me in hospital. But then I ran away, went back up to a house, knocked on the door with blood everywhere in a hospital gown. And but when she opened the door, I actually realized I had nothing to say. So I just stood there and said nothing. So she was obviously freaked out, called the police, and I got sectioned under the Mental Health Act and put in a padded room.
Hi, welcome to Deep.
This channel goes a level deeper.
Deep is a brand new YouTube channel that is dedicated to the amazing experiences of incredible individuals.
We basically try and answer the questions that you always want the answer to, but you don't feel like you can ask.
Myself and the team are responsible for a lot of the factual content that you might have seen on YouTube, Minutes With, The Gap, Agree to Disagree, among others. And we set up this new studio and this new channel to go a level deeper.
We will be uploading a new video every single week.
There'll be a wide range of stories, so please hit the subscribe bell.
Please let us know in the comments if there's anything you want us to cover, any stories that you've been interested in, any questions you wanted to ask.
We hope you enjoy. Now back to our story.
I put myself in situations where I would get hurt, especially later on in life. Like if I tell you the stories, you wouldn't even believe them. Like what I used to do is I used to get myself in situations where I would just get jumped and I used to actually not fight back. I'm not sure if I was scared or just unfamiliar or was in that freeze moment, because when my dad hit me, I would freeze. When I was being sexually abused, I froze. So up until literally 17 years old, I actually used to get jumped like quite regularly. And they used to just get me on the floor and start kicking me. And I used to just wait till they finish and then just get back up and laugh it off. And I didn't care at all. And I don't know if I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but no, I probably did a little bit. There's a part of me that did. I don't know why. And it was kind of because I didn't have that bravado, I wasn't I was tiny, I was skinny. I was tall, but I was skinny. So I wasn't like the big hard man. So instead, I was just the crazy one that could take it and didn't care. And that was kind of my niche almost, as it were. But around this time of kind of self-destruct with the girlfriend, and it's a bit of a mix mash, but I got involved with more alcohol and cocaine and stuff like that. And I went to a young offenders institution for stealing a van. And over the next few years, my life went crazy. But there was this one time where I was in a nightclub, and I remember this guy that had jumped me not so long before with a group of his friends. And it was kind of like where I picked the knife up and slit my throat, where I just saw him and I just saw him, looked at him square in the eyes, and my fist just came up and just punched him in the face. And I promise you now, I had absolutely no intention of doing it whatsoever. It just involuntarily happened from somewhere. So something in my subconscious told me to punch, didn't even tell me, just punched this guy in the face. And it was the first punch I'd thrown. And then we got into a fight and I won the fight. And then, well, I didn't exactly win, but like I didn't get beaten up for once. Just I came out on top. And then bouncers kicked me out and I just felt like the most powerful man in the world. I felt great. And I was just like, this is it. I wanted to get this significance from my dad, from the girlfriend, from acting, all these things that didn't work, but I like this is good. And I got addicted to violence, and I just started fighting aggressively and frequently and looking for it, to the point where I was fighting almost more than once in a night sometimes. Like I'd get kicked out of a nightclub, I'd have my shirt ripped off, and then I didn't do this a lot of times, but there would be times sometimes where I would literally pay homeless people for their t-shirt so that I could put it back on, go to the back of the queue and get back in and then jump back into the fight again. Or I'd jump over the barbed wire and come out with like scratches all down my, just anything to get back involved with it, because I was just addicted and obsessed with it. It wasn't like, oh, I've had a fight now, well, I need to go home. It was just like, give me more. And yeah, obviously that racked up a lot of charges. I ended up having a very chaotic life for a few years of drink, drugs, violence, with some very serious offences, GBHs, ABHs, affray. From going from a little teenager who didn't fight back to going to someone that would stamp on people's heads and, put them in comas. There is no reason why that wouldn't have progressed into murder. I don't think I would ever be a serial killer. I never got a thrill or a thought how amazing would it be to kill somebody, but it happening in a scenario, it's quite possible, really. Was alleged to hit someone with a bottle and bit them on their abdomen in a nightclub, and he was actually fine until he was in a taxi and then dropped down, and then he was had a brain hemorrhage, and then I actually went to prison for something else. Actually, I think I breached my probation, and then the day after I got released from prison, 5 a.m., the police came and arrested me for GBH. I ended up after that getting some of the charges dropped down, because actually I got done for GBH, but then I also had a fight with 4 guys, me and my friend and 4 guys, and actually we got charged with another 4 GBHs. So it sounds insane, but at one point I had 5 GBH in a fray. And it's on my record, my police records. But they luckily got dropped down to ABH, and then 2 of them got dropped, so there was just 2 ABH. So I was down to 1 GBH and 2 ABH. And this was when I was looking at 8 years in prison, and this is when I went to my pre-sentence report with probation, and this is when they told me, Lewis, you do realize you're going to prison, and I didn't care. And they said to me, do you not feel any empathy or any remorse? And I was like, no. And that's when they sent me for the psychiatric assessment, which is where I got the diagnosis of the antisocial personality disorder. And the antisocial personality disorder is the clinical term that's given to a psychopath. But somehow, and I always just think it's very unfair, but just saying it how it is, I think it's because I used to always slick my hair to one side and put on a suit when I used to go to court and speak well. And I got away with a 2-year suspended sentence and a £3,200 fine and 6 months tag, and I couldn't be drunk at a public place for 18 months and probation, and it was like and 250 hours community service. It was like the largest community order I could have got, but I didn't actually go to prison for that. But then I ended up doing it again and did go to prison. So I was actually only 3 times that I went to prison. Yeah, so the first one was for the van, and the second one was for breaching my probation. And the third one was when I was in a taxi queue, and I jumped at the front of a taxi queue. I don't know if I did it on purpose because I was arrogant and thought I could, or if I was so drunk that I didn't realize. And a guy started shouting and screaming in my face. And I try and remember what he looked like, but I actually don't know, because all I can see is my dad's face shouting and screaming in my face. So this didn't happen all the time. It's not like every person I would go out and fight with would be like me getting back at my dad, but obviously there was some subconscious anger there towards him. But in this exact scenario, this guy was actually 40 years old and I was 25 at this point. This is the last time I went to prison, 24. So he was actually like significantly older than me, felt significantly older to me at the time. He just really triggered me, reminded me of my dad. And I punched him once, and he hit his head flat on the ground, face first. And I thought I killed him, because he just didn't move. His face was just planted in the ground. And the thud that I heard from the concrete, everyone turned around from the train station and just looked. And I looked up to the corner and saw the security camera and just thought, oh, okay, I'm going to jail. So I put my coat over his head thinking he was dead, put my hands up and thought, this is going to be my best chances of getting a lighter sentence, and waited for the police to arrive. And then they put me in the back of the taxi, and they didn't taxi. It was my taxi to jail, but they put me back at the police car, and everyone rushed around him and tried to help him and stuff. And then they wouldn't tell me what happened. And I even asked my friend, he came up to the window, he said, you don't know if he's dead or not. And then even in the cells, they wouldn't tell me if he was dead. And then the next morning, they told me that he was in a coma, and he also had a brain hemorrhage. So this was my second GBH, my second brain hemorrhage on my file. So of course I was sent straight to prison. I know that 3 days after he was out of the coma, and I believe made a full recovery. I've tried to reach out through probation, restorative justice and things like that. But he has no interest in speaking with me. But I hear that because he's actually local in the area. Somebody that I know knows of him. I believe he's fine, although I don't know what's happening to him mentally, if that's had any impact on him.
Do you ever think about that with guilt or feelings of remorse?
I really want to get to the point in my life now where I can say yes to that, but I also don't want to lie. I want to try and I'm going to try and really think about it, because usually when you ask me that, like I get asked that question, my default was no, because I just think and I just tell my story and I'm not going there. But I've done a lot of work with myself in Bali recently, and I'm really trying to. So I'm going to really see if I can get there. No, I don't. No, it's still not there. I don't even know what that feels like. That's the thing. I don't know how to even get there. Even to try and summons it up, even to try and aggravate it a bit, to try and make it feel. I regret logically the impact that's had on him, and I know that that's not fair. And I feel sorry would obviously not make sense. I think sorry for him. Like I wish that had never happened to him, because nobody deserves that. But just having a feeling of whatever remorse feels like, I just don't have it. It was after I hit this guy in the taxi queue. I went to prison. I would have got 3 years, but I always got lighter sentences than anybody else because I managed to say the right things. And because I pleaded guilty at the scene, they gave me half off. They usually give you a third off for pleading guilty anyway, but because I pleaded guilty at the scene, they gave me half off, so I got 18 months. And I rang up my friends and rang up one of my friends and said, what are the people saying about me? And they said, you're on the front page of the newspaper, violent and boorish. Okay, cool. But then they said also your friend had posted a picture of you on social media. One was outside the courtroom the day you were sentenced, and one was outside the exact same courtroom 7 years before, outside the exact same courtroom, but 7 years gap, with the caption above it, nothing changes. And that, out of everything, that was kind of the thing that hit home, because I thought, first of all, I thought, how dare you? But he was right. I think that's the thing that hit home. Nothing had changed. Like 7 years had passed, and I was going to prison again. Because this was the time between when I was 18 and when I was 25, going to jail. And as cliche as it sounds, I went back to my cell and I looked in a mirror, and I just, for some reason, I'd never realized that I was the problem. And realizing that nothing changed kind of made me look at myself. And I tried to make changes to things around me before. I'd tried to, get a job, or I tried to go to pubs rather than nightclubs, or make these different stupid changes thinking it was going to make some difference. But I never looked at myself or even had the idea of personal development, or I just believed you were a certain type of person and that was who you were. Even my mum said to me, like, we all know you're not going to make old bones, Lewis. Like she knew I was going to die young. I'd accepted I was going to die young. I was one of the worst of the worst. I was always the craziest one. And that was me. That was my identity. But then I kind of got this realization that I was the problem. I was causing this, because I'd also started to, I was blaming everything and everyone around me. And I was thinking about all these things and thinking, well, of course my life's going to be like this because of all these things that have happened. And, but I realized that if I wanted my life to change, I had to change myself. So I got a place at this 6-month rehab. They picked me up from prison gates, took me to the rehab, and the rehab was intense. It was 24-hour therapy. Just breaking you down and rebuilding you, getting you to look at all the reasons why you needed to drink and take drugs. It wasn't just a case of abstinence. It was a case of becoming a person that is complete within themselves and doesn't need to use external substances to fix an internal problem. And it was hard. It broke me down. It did at times. I even felt suicidal at times through that process, but when I walked out that place, I just felt free, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. And whilst I was doing this, I was in one of the meetings once, and someone came up to me and they asked me for help, and I was thinking, why are you asking me for? Like, I'm also here because I have a problem. Yeah, so I'm not going to be much use to you. But it's my first day, so I thought, fair enough, all right, okay. And I gave him a little bit of an breakdown of what happens. And then when he was walking away, I thought, actually, I've just helped that person. And it made me realize that you don't necessarily need to be too many steps in front of somebody in order to help them. In these meetings, I'm absorbing people's relapses, denials, breakthroughs, stories, triggers, traumas, and through that and my own personal experience, like I'm learning a lot. So I started thinking, why is this only available for people that are drug addicts and alcoholics? Like, this is actually helpful for normal people as well, because I'm seeing people going from rock bottom to better than average, and then there's these average people walking around not have the luxury of getting to the rock bottom to the point where they need to work on themselves to be able to get above average. And so I started helping people for free. I'd look on social media, I'd find people that looked miserable, writing their negative posts, and I'd literally say, hey, do you want to meet up in Costa Coffee, and I'll buy you a coffee and we'll talk about it. And that's how it all started, because I started to really help these people and get them great results. And I thought, wow, like, I'm good at this and I've learned a lot. That combined with sort of having the realization that this could be something I did some qualifications and doing some training. I started to get some clients. And also due to this condition or emotional shutdown or my type of personality, or however you want to describe it, I was able to really push people to do the things that they want to do, and didn't let them get away with any of the BS that they'd come up with, or wouldn't get sidetracked by any of their trauma that they would share with me, that would usually get people to retract back. It moved into other coaches asking me how I was doing what I was doing, and then I created the actual training and the frameworks and the models to be able to teach the way that I coached other people, which also become very successful. I battled my whole life with asking myself the question, do I have this disorder, and do I learn to live with this and just accept what I've got? Sometimes with my scenario, I get conflicted. I think I'm just not like normal people. I just really don't think I am. And it doesn't feel like it's in there. But then other times I'll get a little flicker, or people will just tell me, like, no, Lewis, like, I can really feel energy from you, and I feel like you're this really loving person. And then I think, yeah, you're right. And then I'll try and do the work on it, but it's just it's either so deep that it's just like, I don't know how to open it. If I keep on holding on to the label of I'm a psychopath, I cannot feel, then I won't, It's like before, if I was holding on to the label of I'm bad, I cannot change, then I never will, and I never did. But the moment I was like, actually, I accept responsibility for this and I can change, I did. My prayers are leaning towards having somebody with a full range of emotion, even the negative ones, although ideally not the fear and self-doubt and all the crippling anxiety and all the stuff that comes with it. But if I have to take that, I'll take it.